Hey YouTube, Kiratwig here, bringing you all my Dark World Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck profile for Posts, the new Dark World Structure Deck, Reloaded. We got a bunch of new Dark World support in the latest Yu-Gi-Oh! Structure Deck for the TCG. It introduces a new fusion monster, as well as a bunch of new main deck monsters, spells, and traps to help the overall playstyle of the Dark World deck, which focuses on discarding your own cards, your opponent's cards, and gaining many different Dark World effects. Because of it, we can add in the danger monsters, which a lot of them were also reprinted in the structure deck, along with the new Dark World cards and some of the older ones, which definitely needed the reprints to make this deck more viable to use, as well as a couple other cards that weren't included in the deck that definitely do help with the overall playstyle. So let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So we'll go ahead and start off with the main deck monsters. For the Dark World monsters, I'm running 3 of the new Rainbow Overking of Dark World. You can special summon this card from your graveyard by returning 1 level 7 or lower Dark World monster you control the hand. If this card is discarded to the graveyard by a card effect, you can add 1 level 5 or higher Dark World monster from your deck to your hand, except for Rainbow Overking of the Dark World. Then, if this card was discarded from your hand to the graveyard by an opponent's card effect, you can special summon 1 level 4 or lower Dark World monster from your deck or graveyard to either field. So this gives you setup on the field, and with it you're able to at least have search power for your go-to boss monster in the main deck, which is still Grapha, Dragon Lord of Dark World. But this setup definitely does help for overall plays, giving you monsters on the field, including some of our new level 4 monsters, which we'll get to in just a bit. But definitely a 3 of to go for, also just being a 3,000 attack point monster, and that graveyard setup that I spoke of before. I also run 3 of the Grapha, Dragon Lord of Dark World. This card was just reprinted in the structure deck. You can special summon this card from your graveyard by returning 1 Dark World monster you control the hand. So just like Rainbow, or Rainbow is just like this card. And with this card, also if it's discarded to the graveyard by a card effect, you can target 1 card your opponent controls, destroy that target. Then if this card was discarded from your hand to your graveyard by an opponent's card effect, you can look at 1 random card in your opponent's hand, and then if it was a monster, you can special summon it to your field, giving you those resources. You don't really use the discard from your opponents too much, but you do rely on Grapha just for the special summon back onto the field, and for the destruction of your opponent's cards when it's discarded. And then being able to just reset it back up on the field and search it out with cards like Rainbow makes it all the better. I also run 3 copies of the new Genta Gateman of Dark World. You can only special summon Genta once per turn. You can discard this card to the graveyard to add 1, the Gates of the Dark World, from your deck to your hand. If this card is banished and your opponent controls a Dark World card, you can special summon this card. So you have more special summon options. Also with the special summon to your opponent's field comes into the form of Rainbow, but also just being able to have a search. You had to rely on the discard for Snow a lot of times to get a search for your Gates of the Dark World. Being able to just add it thanks to Genta, him being the gate man, obviously, you can just add this card to your hand and set up more of your discard plays from there. We're still running 3 Snow Unlight of the Dark World. This card, if it's discarded to the graveyard by a card effect, or if it was discarded from your hand to graveyard by an opponent's card effect, you can target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard and add 1 Dark World card from your deck to your hand, then special summon that target in any defense. So it gives you more of a discard option to target a monster in your opponent's graveyard and add 1 Dark World card from your deck to your hand. So it's just the option for the discard, and also the additional one for an opponent's card effect, but still, it's your searcher for any of the Dark World cards. So if it is discarded, you have that search to get out many of the other cards, including our go-to fusion spell in the deck for our new boss monster of the extra deck, being Grapha, Dragon Overlord of Dark World. And for the last of the 3 ofs, also running 3 Brow Huntsman of Dark World. If it's discarded to the graveyard by a card effect, you draw 1 card, or if it was discarded from your hand to the graveyard by an opponent's card effect, draw 2 cards instead. So the Brow is basically just your draw power, being able to make up for any of the draws with an additional draw, and a lot of the Old World Dark World cards are not once per turn. So if you have the discard to keep using Brow, you have more and more of the draw power, so your hand won't dwindle with any of the discard plays that you invest with in the deck. I also run 2 Silva Warlord of Dark World. If it's discarded to the graveyard by a card effect, you can special summon this card. And if it was discarded by an opponent's card effect, your opponent places exactly 2 cards from their hand on the bottom of their deck in any order. It's not going to happen often. You're mostly just using Silva for the special summon power, being a 2300 attack point monster, and even just a resource to go into some of your link monsters in the extra deck. I also run one Ceruli, Guru of Dark World. If it's discarded to the graveyard by a card effect, special summon this card to your opponent's field in defense position. If it was special summoned by the effect of a Dark World card, your opponent discards one card. So this can give you plays thanks to your Rainbow over King of the Dark World, special summoning it onto the field, and if it was a Dark World card, discarding a card from your opponent. And then also being able to set this card up on your opponent's field can give you the special summon needed when you banish Genta, Gateman of the Dark World also. That's it for the Dark World monsters. I am running a Danger Engine lineup as well, so 2 copies of Danger Nessie. Being able to reveal and discard can give you power off of your own Dark World monsters while still giving you a draw and special summon off of your Danger monsters also onto the field. Only 2 Nessie though, because I am running other numbers, including 2 copies of Danger Bigfoot. Being a level 8 monster along with your Grapha means you can go into rank 8 monsters with its own special summon and the special summon power of Grapha back onto the field. Same reason we're also playing 2 Danger Thunderbird for the level 8 power and for the fact that they all share the discard special summon option. Went for more of the bigger ones, so no Tsuchinoko or Nessie. If you wanted to run Chupacabra in the deck, you could always take out the trap option that I'm running just as an additional spot to replace with Chupacabra. Instead, you wanted to go for a no trap lineup in the deck to work with, since the Dark Worlds do focus on a big discard play, with the last monster in the main deck and it also being our last danger monster being 1 Danger Mothman, level 4 option. And also for it, if it's discarded, you can have both players draw 1 card, then both players discard 1 card, giving you more discard power also for your Dark World plays. That is it for the main deck monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. I am running 2 Dark World Ascension. This is the go-to fusion card. During the main phase, fusion summon 1 Fiend fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing materials mentioned on it from your field or graveyard. If fusion summoning a Dark World monster this way, you can also discard monsters as material. During your main phase, if this card was sent to the graveyard, is in your graveyard, you can add this card to your hand, then discard 1 Dark World monster. And you can only use each effect of Dark World Ascension once per turn. So it's recycle power. The fact that it's a quick play means that you can summon out your bigger go-to Dark World boss monster onto the field after your other ones have attacked, being able to use the resources in your hand as well. For the option for the discard means that you'll get those Dark World cards, but the banish can also make use of cards like Genta, Gate Ruler of the Dark World, and also for the fact that this card can be searched off of cards like Snow. I also run 3 copies of the Gates of Dark World. I only ran 2 of the Fusion spell because we're only running 2 of the Fusion monster. And like I said, it's searchable. Gates of the Dark World can be searched off of Genta, but I'm running 3 of it because it is definitely a necessary card to set up all your plays in the deck. All Fiend monsters gain 300 attack and defense once per turn. You can banish 1 Fiend monster from your graveyard to discard 1 Fiend monster, then draw 1 card. This is also the banish mentioned with Genta, and also why we run the Ceruli to give this over to your opponent to then have the special summon with this card. If it is banished and you control a Dark World card, to special summon this card onto the field. And for the other Dark World cards, I run 1 Dark World Puppetry and 1 Dark World Archives. Just 1-ofs for each of these. Once again, Snow can search them out, giving you more of a banish option with Puppetry in either of the graveyards, and with Archives being able to, during the main phase, discard 1 Dark World monster. And if you do, Dark World monsters you currently control gain attack equal to the level of the discarded monster had in its hand times 100 until the end of this turn. And if a monster whose original type is Fiend is discarded from your hand by the card effect of a Dark World card, or an opponent's card effect even during the damage step, you can discard 1 card, then draw 2 cards. It's draw power and set up for some of our other cards, being able to destroy cards with Grapha or any of the special summons that I mentioned before. But once again, just 1-ofs. I really feel it's all you need, and with Snow being at a 3-of, easy to add to your hand. For more of the generic spell lineup, I also run 2 copies of Trade-In with Danger Bigfoot and also Danger Thunderbird, along with Grapha and also the new Rainbow over King of Dark World being level 8. This is a good go-to draw power card for the discard of a level 8 monster to draw 2. And also the 1 card destruction, pretty self-explanatory with this card and its discard for your Dark World cards. And also the 3 Dark World Dealings for just a draw 1, and then each player discard 1. Can be more setup as well in the deck, so definite 3-of for this card along with your plays. And then lastly, for the main deck, just 2 copies of Dark World Punishment. When a monster would be normal or special summon, you can negate the summon. If you do destroy that monster, then discard 1 fiend monster. If a Dark World monster you control would be destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. You go and use each effect of Dark World Punishment once per turn. I like trying this card out. It's a good go, into the play when you go first, being able to set this card up on the field, stopping your opponent's summon, whether it be a normal or special summon, and then additional protection in the graveyard for your own Dark World monsters. That is it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck for the new fusion monster. I am running 2 copies of Grapha, Dragon Overlord of Dark World. You need 1 Grapha, Dragon Lord of Dark World, and 1 Dark Monster. So you can basically use any monster that we run in the deck along with Grapha. With this card, when your opponent activates a monster effect or normal spell or trap card, while you have a card or cards in your hand, quick effect, you can activate this effect. The activated effect becomes your opponent discards 1 card. You can use this effect of Grapha, Dragon Overlord of Dark World once per turn, and if this fusion summon card in its owner's control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, you can special summon 1 of your Grapha Dragon Lord of Dark World that is banished during your graveyard. Then each player discards 1 card, getting you your go-to main deck boss monster back onto the field. And for the fact that you need Grapha to summon this card out means that it will more than likely be in your graveyard for you to summon back, or even if it's banished, back onto the field thanks to this card. And also just with the additional plays that I spoke of before with your Dark World Ascension, being able to have this and if your opponent does have a response to it, you can at least summon out another boss monster back on the field thanks to it. For more of the generic extra deck cards, Grapha Dragon Overlord of Dark World was the only fusion monster we were running. For the Link monsters, 1 IP Masquerena, 1 Barricade Borg Blocker, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, along with 1 Underclock Taker, 1 Cross Sheep, 1 Master King Archfiend, and 1 Apollosa, Bow of the Goddess. Now, the only thing I thought to run, because it also has discard power, and that would be Nightmare Unicorn. If you were to do that, you can take out the Underclock Taker for that spot, or even the Master King Archfiend. For the Xyz monsters, we do have a good number of level 4 monsters in the deck. So 1 number 60 for the draw discard once again, Tornado Dragon, Evil Swarm Exciton Knight, and then for the rank 8s, number 38 and number 68, along with Divine Arsenal Zeus being able to go into this card after any of our Xyz monsters. As for some of the go-to plays in the deck, the discard power really does help overall. Being able just to discard our Genta Gateman of Dark World and search our additional field spell gives us that setup on the field and also the boost to our Fiend monsters. Then being able just to banish a Fiend monster from our graveyard, which we have sent up thanks to Genta for that banish, and then discard 1 Fiend from our hand and draw 1. It all comes down to what you get off of the draw, but if you have the discard for that additional monster, you can use Snow for that additional search for your quick play spell, and then you can use Genta for that additional play as well. With this card, if it's banished, you control a Dark World card, which you do, which would be the field spell you searched off of it. You can special Genta back onto the field, and then the only problem that will arise with the Dark World Ascension is you can fusion summon the Fiend fusion monster, and you have to have Grapha for that search. So you can either have the additional option with this card, and it was discarded from your hand by your opponent's card effect to target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard, add 1 Dark World card from your deck to your hand. So you can either add the search for the Ascension. If you already have the Ascension in your hand, you can search out the other needed material for your fusion monster being the Grapha. And then from there, you have the activation of your Dark World Ascension, already having the monster in your graveyard being Snow or the Genta on the field, and then the Grapha in your hand. Going for the fusion play with the needed 2 monsters you want. If you wanted the additional resource, you can keep the Genta on the field and then discard the Grapha from your hand, banishing the Snow. And with it, you'll have the destruction play off of Grapha along with the fusion summon of your go-to monster on the field, and the option if your opponent does get rid of this card, a way to special summon Grapha Dragon Lord of the Dark World at full 3000 power thanks to the field spell on the play, thanks to it also. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Like I said, it's a really awesome deck, very affordable for anyone wanting to build it. There's not too many cards needed that are pricey for the deck, and ones that can't be found, outside of the structure deck can still be replaced with other ones that we got from it. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, and Kira Twig out.